Hello everybody and welcome to day 2 of our Christmas mini-series, having a look at some of the most overpowered, fun and unique Frost builds in Elden Ring. And let me start off by saying that today you don't want to miss this build. So if you're excited to find out what weapon this can possibly be, make sure you hit that like rating down below. As I mentioned in the first video, we're trying to get 150 likes on each one of these episodes and bonus points if you can do it in the first 24 hours of these being released. And of course, as we're bringing out a video every day in the lead up to Christmas, if you don't want to miss out on any of these insane builds, make sure that you hit that subscribe button as well and that notification bell, and that way you won't miss out on the future videos. But in the meantime, I've got a bit of a godly build to show you, so let's get straight into it. Now, for those of you like myself that have been fans of Elden Ring for some time and have been playing it ever since the game was released, you'll be no stranger to a bleed build absolutely decimating everything on your screen. But as time has progressed and updates have happened, bleed has been a bit nerfed and certain weapons aren't as good as what they used to be. But what if I told you that bleed is still just as good and even better now if you also infuse it with the frost abilities? That is because today we're going to be looking at the Scavenger's Curve Sword that uses the Chilling Mist Ash of War. This particular weapon is a natural bleed weapon, so we don't need to put anything on it to make it have the bleed effect, so we can also then put frost damage onto it, giving it both bleed and frost. The caveat is, when an enemy is frozen or gets affected by the frost ability, they will then take more damage, meaning that they'll take more damage from the bleed effect as well. And as I'm sure you're already aware, adding those two effects together make one of the deadliest combinations in the entire game. The other caveat with this combination is that where bleed weapons wouldn't be good against certain enemies like the Elden Beast or Radagon, this particular weapon will still perform well as they are susceptible to frost. So essentially every problem that there was with the bleed weapons in the game now, we are purely fixing them with frost. Now of course, let me show you how you obtain this weapon. It is in fact one that you can pick up in Mount Gelmir. So as if you're heading up Mount Gelmir itself to go and fight the Fallen Star Beast, at the peak of the mountain you'll come across this area where you will go up all of the ladders, but just before you go up the first ladder, the Scavenger Curve Sword will just be resting on one of the bodies here, ready for you to pick up. Like I say, you can only get the one per playthrough, so you can either go into a New Game Plus and get the second one, or if you've got a friend that maybe has a surplus of scavenger swords, you can maybe ask them kindly to drop theirs for you, and that would be the other way to get two of these incredibly powerful weapons. But essentially, once you do get these weapons, we then need to go and get the Ash of War that I recommend using, the Chilling Mist, and that's a lot easier to obtain, and that is by going to the Carrier Manor as if you're going up to Rani's Rise, but in the ruins between Carrier Manor and Rani's Rise, there will be a silver scarab which you need to defeat, and upon doing so, will then grant you the Ash of War Chilling Mist. And then of course, once you get that, you can either duplicate it or again go into New Game Plus and get a second one and put it on both of the Scavenger Swords. And then essentially, once you've done that, you are then good to go and just obliterate any enemy on your screen. For those of you that are fans on the channel, in actual fact I think it's possibly one of my most popular videos on the channel, I did cover these weapons way back when bleed was the meta, but obviously since then a lot of updates have happened, and more specifically in 1.10 a lot of the bleed effects were nerfed, especially certain Ashes of War like Seppuku, but with the combination of the frost damage and the bleed effect on the weapon already, this essentially brings it back to those kind of OP levels that we had back in the day. The gameplay you're seeing in the background is from New Game Plus 4, so bear that in mind that the enemy's health pools are a lot higher than usual. Either way, this weapon was more than capable of taking on the largest enemies with the largest health pools and destroying them in literal seconds. For those of you that don't know, the best way to utilize a dual wield curve sword build is to make use of the light attacks with your offhand. That will basically swing both swords rather than just the one, and if you jump, you then do a special jumping attack which swings both swords twice, dealing 4 hits in very quick succession. So you can probably see if you rinse that particular attack, you're going to proc frost and bleed multiple times, doing thousands and thousands of damage. Even in the New Game Pluses like you're seeing here, it still decimates, and especially online as well. Literally, if you're either doing a run attack or a jump attack, you will more often or not beat your enemies with just one use or one flurry of that attack. This build is the most ridiculous one that I've used in quite some time, so let me show you the stats you need to use it. Of course, as per usual, same run of the mill is a level 150 build, so we've got 45 Vigor, 20 mind, 24 endurance, 30 strength, 65 dexterity, 25 intelligence, and then 10 faith and arcane. Faith and arcane are my base stat because I am a wretch build for this particular character, so essentially don't bother putting anything in faith and arcane. The main stat you want to be focusing on is going to be dexterity out of all of the scalings, because when we put the chilling frost on this weapon, strength, dexterity and intelligence all become a C graded in its scaling effects, but dexterity is still going to be the best out of the bunch. Intelligence of course impacts the amount of frost buildup that we do and also the amount of damage it does when it does proc, so it's good to put a little bit into intelligence so you can get that little bit extra damage just with the weapon itself and also with the frost proc. But then, like I say, you predominantly want to go into dexterity and then a little bit into strength just to get the best base damage out of the weapon. And with those stats we're also going to be running these talismans to go with them, and that of course is going to be the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, where it's obviously going to be a bleed damage build. Every time that we proc bleed, we are then going to be doing extra damage, and where that's going to be happening pretty much every 2 or 3 seconds, it's worth putting the Laws of Exaltation on here. And then again, where we're highly delved into DPS, having things like the Rotted Winged Insignia cannot go amiss, as we're going to be getting the extra damage with successive hits. And then again, we compare that with Millicent's Prosthesis, again giving us a +5 in dexterity and further boosting the damage output with successive hits. And then again, as per normal, whenever I'm using a build that's up close and personal like this, I do highly recommend running the Dragon Crest Great Shield, or at least a Dragon Crest shield of some variation, essentially whichever one you have which is best, just to boost your defense in case an enemy does strike you, because it's going to happen, especially like I say if you're up close and personal. And then as for the Wonder Physick, I would also highly recommend putting the Dexterity Not tier just to boost that all the way up to 80 to meet the cap for Dexterity, and then also having the Thorny Crack tier to give a third boost to successive damage output, which I know is probably a bit excessive, but trust me, it's worth it, and that's how you're going to be doing the numbers that you're seeing on screen. So for a build that requires sort of minimal work to obtain it, it also requires minimal work to use it, because like I say, we're going to be utilizing the L1 or LB attacks, so with the left-handed light attacks to do multiple swings of both weapons, and realistically, other than that and pressing the jump button, those are the only 2 buttons you need to use for any boss fight. But yeah, obviously, this is the most broken build, but is also possibly not the most fun, because yeah, where's the fun in literally just pressing one button and then that's it? Like, you can use it to a certain extent, like it is funny to go up against some of the hardest bosses and then just destroy them, but there's pros and cons to it. So what I would say, if you are struggling and you can't get through the game, definitely use this build, because the game will be over in about 2 hours. But if you're looking for a bit of a challenge, then yeah, this isn't the answer, because any challenge that was ever posed is now redundant with these weapons. But not to fret, because we've got more episodes coming out this week. In fact, we've got 5 more coming out this week, so like I said earlier, make sure that you stay tuned for all of that, because they will be more fun and exciting as we go on, and I'll be hopefully pointing out builds that you maybe weren't aware of, or that can give you a challenge to replay the game, get yourself hyped for when we hopefully get some DLC early next year. But either way, I hope you have enjoyed this particular video. Make sure you hit the like button if you did, and let me know if you ever used these weapons either back in the day, or if you're still using the curved swords now and it's just your main go-to, because I'm always intrigued to know what you guys are using, or if you even use any Frost Ashes of War, because I know previously I would never ever use frost damage unless it was on a weapon already, but in recent times, and especially obviously doing this series and experimenting with different weapons, I've been using a ton of Frost Ashes of War, and let me tell you, they're extremely fun to use. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that there, guys. Thank you again so much for watching this series. I really do hope that you're enjoying it so far. I will leave links in the description in case you've missed the first episode, or if you're watching this later on and you want to watch all of the videos in one go, the playlist will be in the description. But anyway, like I say, that's it for this particular video. Thank you again for watching. I hope you're having an amazing day. Obviously stay safe, especially if you're traveling for Christmas, but in the meantime, I guess I will catch you in tomorrow's video. Bye bye.